Welcome to Slash Forward, and welcome back to familiar territory, as in this episode we're going to watch the updated version of The Hills Have Eyes, a banger of a remake that, unbeknownst to me, is a nearly shot-for-shot retread of the original, so subscribe to the channel for an unending repetitive pathway toward pain. Let's get to it. We open on an info card that provides a little more solid context for us about how our antagonists are the product of irresponsible radiation poisoning from nuclear testing in New Mexico. We then transition to those very same irradiated deserts, a Mad Max-style wasteland that's kept from the public eye. They like to get in there every once in a while and do some testing, for fun, but their specimen collecting is interrupted by some poor lad, who brings with him the very product of their malfeasance, a wasteland mutant with incredible upper body strength. We then slowly one-shot our way into a small town consisting solely of a rundown service station. The proprietor comes out, spooked by an unseen danger, and casually strolls along calling for Ruby. He even goes so far as to cross a derelict fence demarcating the forbidden zone, and peering into a nearby pigeonhole where he shouts some words of warning at Jupiter. He then returns to find a satchel of stolen goods, and shouts out to anyone who may be listening that he's done with this life, and has no intention of continuing with this arrangement. But the call of the goodie bag is a bit too strong to ignore, plus it's already here, and he takes a peek to find it pregnant with valuable trinkets, including a human ear. His accounting of this new inventory is interrupted when a wayward family rolls up looking for a top-off on their fluids. Doug and Lynn wait things out inside the sweatbox, while outside we learn the family is on their way to San Diego, but taking some time to sightsee the flora and fauna of the desert along the way. We meet the rest of the family as Brenda finds a new pink friend out back, and then right in front of his sister, little Bobby drops his Jinkos to take a piss in the wind. While up front, we learn that Bob's a retired detective, there's no cell service out in the sticks, and that they enjoy waving that baby around in broad daylight like they're just looking to get it eaten. Our inbred attendant makes a cool $46 as Lynn goes to grab Beauty and very nearly stumbles upon the stolen bounty. Worried about the possibility that his cover's now blown, he decides to grant his desert clan one last gift, and lets Bob know about an off-map route through the hills that'll shave a couple of hours off the trip. Now, whether those hills happen to have eyes or not, he's not saying, but Bob appreciates efficiency. And with all that setup now complete, we have an entire 90-minute movie ahead of us. As they drive along, hoping the road to nowhere takes them somewhere, Bob regales those in the lead vehicle with stories of when their mom used to be a little hippie who was hot to trot, while back in the Airstream, Doug and Bobby hang in the bro den, smoking some cigs and sweating it out. The general calm is disrupted, however, when they run over a spike strip, which causes Bob to freak out and take a boulder to the radiator. Then they rush out to verify everyone's all right, and they are, which is great. It's always good to know everyone is all healthy and happy. Doug pounces on the chance to connect with his father-in-law over the extensive damage he caused to their only vehicle, and by bringing himself to Bob's immediate attention,
we walk.
He's recruited to help. As we know, Doug's going to head up the road a piece while Bob walks back toward the service station to find a vehicle or a phone. Brenda then shirts up for the prayer, and we see they're being observed from a distance. After the men leave, the ladies set up their picnic dinner while the dogs get all riled up. Brenda absent-mindedly lets Beauty out, causing Bobby to run off to find her. As he jogs along a washout, he hears sounds of doggy distress, but the echo makes it difficult to pinpoint. He eventually picks up a bloody trail and finds that it leads to his friend's carcass. When he sees that her evisceration may have been tool-assisted, he gets spooked, which sets him to running and results in him taking a nasty fall, putting his lights out. As the sun sets, we see that he's being watched over by Ruby and her dapper brother, gnawing on a haunch. We then connect up with Doug, who finds the end of the road, which terminates in a nuclear crater that happens to be filled with an automobile graveyard. He takes some time to sightsee, thinking this turn of events is pretty neat, and unknowingly soaks in a dangerous amount of radiation as we pan out to see this to be a significant formation. Then, after nightfall, we see Bob finally arrive back at the station. He looks around but can't find the proprietor. However, with the phone not working, he decides to venture further in and stumbles upon his bag of goodies. It's suspicious, and the presence of a human ear tips him off that something's not quite right here, so he proceeds from this point with gun drawn. He lamps up the wall, finding a variety of expositional clippings about nuclear tests in the desert and homebound miners who refuse to abandon their land, resulting in a variety of birth defects, which naturally then led to the disappearance of many families over time. Now understanding the con, he feels betrayed by his new friend and rushes out to a nearby vehicle, but he hears the attendant drinking in the outhouse, as is so often the case, and when he confronts him, Bob receives the apology he was looking for before he blasts his face clean off.
Daddy.
And then Bob starts firing on an unseen target, wasting his ammo. He wisely runs back to the car, but then discovers that he left it unattended for too long, as an assailant pops out, beats him mercilessly, and then drags him deep into the mine. Worried about what Bobby may be up to, alone in the desert, Brenda goes off to search for him. Luckily, he returns shortly after, and as they mend him, he gets jumpy over sounds from outside and goes to investigate, finding that Beast is now off-leash. Then he nearly shoots Doug's dick off. They find that he's returned with souvenirs for everyone. As they head in to examine his bounty, we see that Beast has wandered off and found Beauty, which sets the stakes of their situation for him. Then, in a couple of familiar beats, Doug and Lynn prepare to spend the night in the SUV, which distresses Bobby, but he's reluctant to say anything. As everyone settles in for some rest, Bobby hears barking in the distance and goes out to check on Beast. As he gets closer, the barking turns into human laughter, which causes him to run back to warn Doug and Lynn that there are folks out hiding in the brush. And then he comes clean about the state in which he found Beauty. But before they can investigate further, Pluto hits the high sign, setting off the Big Bob distraction, which occupies the family's full attention, as they circle back to ransack the RV. In this version, while we get some familiar images, it quickly devolves into a much more unflinchingly brutal assault scene. As the fire dies down outside, Lynn hears screaming from the trailer and runs back to check. At this point, they ramp things up another few notches after Lynn jumps in and decides to do whatever it takes to protect her baby, which ultimately ends with Ethel walking in on a forced redneck breastfeeding. She takes a gut shot, breaking the tension and giving Lynn the opportunity to put a screwdriver in Lizard's leg, which she works in real good but then pays dearly for it. Brenda is saved only for a lack of bullets as the fellas arrive to chase them off. In the aftermath, as they assess the damage, we see Doug confirming that his baby is now missing. This is being watched from a distance by Goggle, who then becomes victim to Beast, drawing first blood for the good guys. As they work to sort through all the information that's been dumped on them in an attempt to develop a plan, a voice outside calls out looking for Goggle, prompting Bobby to put 3 rounds through the door. Then he ventures out to find Goggle's radio still firmly gripped by his hand. Beast hops out and they hear that Jupiter has plans to finish them all off. So Doug jumps on the radio to see if he can reason with them.
What the fuck do you want from us?
But as he already said, he wants them dead. The next morning, Doug takes Beast and heads on a redemption quest, easily finding the entrance to the mine due to Lizard's blood trail. He ventures in deep, letting Beast lead him along until they find the tunnel's exit, which spits them out near a quaint little mining town. He radios back to base, but we see they're busy setting tire fires and rigging up tripwires. As Doug proceeds through the neighborhood, he finds it furnished for nuclear fallout testing, until he comes upon a home with a running generator outside, and he peeps his baby inside. But then a giant mutant lumbers by, dragging his pet corpse along with him, requiring Doug to duck into a nearby car. He leaves Beast here so he has more control over his sneak levels. As he goes to retrieve Catherine, he attempts to do so without administering any free violence despite a clear opportunity to do so, which proves to be a mistake. Back at the RV, they take a novel approach, attempting to lure their baby back with a toy attached to a fishing pole, and then they continue their general preparations. Then Doug wakes up inside a meat storage bin, luckily still intact, and slap thrusts his way out while Beast also finds a way out of his cage. Doug then follows sounds of patriotic singing, which are emanating from a wretched intellectual who decides to give Doug some exposition, just in case anyone was concerned about why they're so enamored with slaughtering our people. Then Pluto busts in with an axe and Doug mostly just ducks and dodges until Beast hops in, giving him a chance to regroup in the bathroom, but he continues to be surprised when they defy convention, and he ends up with a bat shard that he places in Pluto's torso. This only grants him a momentary reprieve, and after a massage and manicure, Doug plays like he's helpless to gain the upper hand and gives his assailant the 4th of July special. Now comfortable with the taste of his enemy's blood, he easily negates the outside mutant's neck halo before stylishly finishing him off. This prompts Brainiac to give the order,
"Kill the baby,"
which Beast does not appreciate even a little bit. As Doug searches the town for Katie, we see Ruby get shooed out of the butcher's room, and it's revealed that she's pulled a Willow on Lizard. Then Doug catches her figure running across the ridgeline and goes to intercept. Back at the RV, they get a warning sign their attacker has arrived, but when they investigate, it appears to have just been a tumbleweed tugging on the line. However, when they return to the SUV, their mom's body is missing. Bobby gives the order for Brenda to start her part of the plan as he runs off in pursuit. Unfortunately, he quickly regrets this mistake as he turns a corner to the sounds of a raw flesh mukbang and gets chased back to camp by Jupiter. As he runs through, we see them setting up a familiar propane trap, and Jupiter, greedy for more meat, pops in and gets himself roasted. Meanwhile, Doug cuts Ruby off and finds that she means well, but he's then ambushed by and entangled with a man much more entrenched in a life of violence than he. But Doug finds himself empowered by baby rage and bludgeons him soundly, Father and daughter are then reunited, but Lizard still has another round in him, leaving Ruby to fulfill her redemption arc. Finally, Brenda takes satisfaction in the opportunity to dent in someone's forehead, and then all the remaining survivors are reunited. Here, I was originally going to make a sarcastic comment about how all that's left is for them to take a pleasant stroll out of the desert. Easy as that is, but then the filmmakers pan back to show them still being watched, so yeah. I have a website set up where you can support the channel through donations or merch. I'd like to take a moment to give a huge thanks to my donors memorialized in the Hall of Headshots. I hadn't realized that this remake so closely followed the first one. Similarly to Evil Dead, I think it did a good job of telling the original story, but ramping things up for a modern audience. I enjoyed the overall expansion on the desert mutant family dynamics, but remembered Jupiter as being more of a dangerous mastermind than a raving lunatic. Even so, this is a solid remake. If you enjoyed the video, I'd love for you to become part of the channel by subscribing. Thanks for watching.